Welcome to JJT's Biz Growth Challenge series. Today I am joined by Chanel Retief from NutriFundi. She is a registered dietitian and she is going to tell us all about the impact of nutrition on the day-to-day business. So welcome, Chanel.
Thank you, Jock. Thank you for having me. It's a big honor.
You're most welcome. I'm looking forward to this. So let's get right into it. For those unfamiliar, what does a nutritionist do, and how is it different from a dietitian?
Okay, so Jock, that's a very interesting question because it also depends on which country you live in. So it's different in different countries. Usually the term dietitian is protected. Also in South Africa, you have to have a degree, different degrees from different universities, but there's certain degrees that you have to be able to call yourself a dietitian. It is protected, so not anyone can just go and say I'm a dietitian so you can't do that. You have to be registered by the HPCSA. Okay, so the difference comes in by the different countries. So overseas, the nutritionist usually is not a degree, and it's just a course that you can do like over a weekend or like a short course, something like that. But in South Africa, for a short period of time, they did register nutritionists as a degree. Okay, they're not doing that degree anymore. So there are a few nutritionists in South Africa with a legit degree, and they can call themselves a nutritionist. But then you also get people doing a short course over a weekend and then calling themselves a nutritionist. So in short, I think you can say any dietitian is a nutritionist, but not all nutritionists are dietitians. And then also the difference between someone with a nutritionist degree and a dietitian degree, usually the difference is, as a dietitian, you can help a patient with a diagnosis. So I can help someone that's a diabetic and wants to do sports, for instance. Whereas a nutritionist is usually more in groups, so they would go to schools, to hospitals, old age homes, and help like a community, not like an individual person with a diagnosis.
Okay, that's interesting. I have some knowledge about dietetics, as you know,
Yes.
but I wasn't aware of that. Why is proper nutrition so important for busy professionals and business owners?
Yeah, so I think as business owners and professionals, we always tend to think of 10 million things at once, and ourselves and nutrition always comes last. And I think that's something that all of us can improve on. And it is important for your mental capabilities to help you to not get sick frequently, to be your best and bring your A game to the boardroom where you want it every day. So I think there's definitely lots of benefits, and it's definitely overlooked by a lot of professionals.
And you would know because you are both a professional and a
Yes.
business owner. Thank you. Then, what are the most common misconceptions about healthy eating?
Oh, this is an easy one. People think healthy eating is expensive. Okay, and it doesn't have to be. Yes, you can make it expensive, but you can also make unhealthy eating expensive. It's what you make of it. So I think that's a very big misconception. And the other, very close to second, I would say is people think it has to be very strict and you have to cut out food groups or include funny supplements or whatever. And that it's almost like an all in or nothing approach. So it doesn't have to be like that, and it also doesn't have to be expensive.
Balance, eh?
Yes, balance is key.
Balance. Right. So, how can nutrition impact productivity, focus, and energy levels throughout the day?
So again, I think as busy professionals, maybe having a baby like myself, and it's a chaotic morning, and before you know it, it's 10 o'clock and you've only had coffee, you haven't eaten something. It happens, and then you get a dip and you realize, oh, I have five patients or 5 meetings booked, and you're tired, and then you just grab something on the go just to spike your energy, and then half an hour later you're tired again and you eat something. So I think it spirals very, very quickly, and I think it's important to have a plan set out, because I mean, as a professional, you do have plans in every part of your life. So just plan for your diet and your nutrition as well. So I think if you eat, and I'm a very big advocate for eating every 3 hours. So I think it just keeps your energy from dropping, because as soon as your energy drops, your body will tell you, I need energy, but it won't say, I need a salad. It will say, I need a Coke, or I need a chocolate, or something like that. So I think just to keep those signals intact, it's good to eat frequently, to help you not spike and dip, and then ultimately help with your productivity.
All right. That's useful. I find that I can relate quite often. having a baby and all
Yeah.
of that things, you tend to forget, oh, I still need to grab breakfast before I leave. Right. So what are the top mistakes people make with their diet at work or at home?
Yeah. So I think it's obviously different work and home, but especially with work, I think not planning and then just grabbing something on the go. Or, I mean, it's so convenient now. You can just order on Mr. Delivery and get
Yeah.
it delivered to your office. So I think not planning, and it goes for office and home. Obviously, at home, you have a bit more space and you can maybe keep something in your house. So it's a bit different. But at the office, not planning. Maybe if you're traveling a lot, you don't have a fridge or you don't have a microwave, and then you go, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to grab a KFC or whatever the case is. So I think the main thing is planning. But a lot of times I get patients saying, yo, I don't like meal prepping. Like, I don't want to meal prep. I don't want bakkies and stuff. I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to meal prep. I don't meal prep either. But the first step for prepping and planning is actually having the right food in your house. If you don't have the right food in your house, how are you going to eat the right food? So I think that's a big thing. Sit on a Sunday, plan your week. Say, okay, Tuesday night and Friday night I have late meetings, so it's going to have to be something quick. It needs to be something in the air fryer. But what is that something? Do you have it in your house? When are you going to buy it? Are you going to 60-60 it Saturday, Monday morning? Or are you going to quickly go to the shop on Sunday? But have a plan. I think that's the important part.
It's that thing about, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Exactly.
All right. So what's one simple change anyone can make today to improve their health?
Okay, so I can't say plan again, eh?
You can.
So plan. I think that's important. And then something sounds very easy, but not always that easy to implement, is but to really have a protein with each and every meal. Especially for professionals busy. Obviously it depends on your line of work, but if it's like an office-based work and you don't get 20,000 steps in a day, focus on your protein and not so much on the carbohydrates. We tend to go for carbohydrates, so it's not like you are going to not eat it. You will still have it because we tend to default to that, but prioritize your protein.
I think in general protein is something that's seen as quite expensive or difficult to get.
Yeah.
But recently I've started implementing eggs for
Yes.
breakfast.
Egg is a brilliant protein.
Very
Yeah.
easy way to
Yeah.
get a protein head start for the day by
Yes.
just having it first thing in the morning
Yeah.
while I'm still at
And
home.
it's very versatile. You can do a lot with an egg.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. And omelets are delicious.
Yes.
So how important is meal timing and portion control for overall wellness?
Yeah, so meal, the timing one, I think I've touched on it earlier, but not eating because you're busy and then only having breakfast at 11 o'clock, that's not intermittent fasting. That's skipping breakfast. Nee? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that is also like, start your day early, start with a planned high protein breakfast. That's where it starts, because a day that's starting healthy will probably end healthy, but a day that starts unhealthy will probably end unhealthy. So I think it's almost like, don't skip your workout on Monday because it sets the scene for the rest of the week. I think that's the same. Don't skip and don't do a bad breakfast, because then you go, I can just as well eat whatever for lunch because you've started your day like that. So I usually say eat every 3 to 4 hours, and as I said, include a protein in each part of your meal. So remember, we get plant proteins and we get animal proteins. So we can also use plant proteins. It doesn't have to be biltong or mince or eggs or chicken for each and every meal. We can do other things. We can do chickpeas, we can do lentils. There's lots of different plant proteins that we can also include.
Okay. So it's still possible for people who don't eat meat to get their protein?
Yes.
Okay. Are there easy ways to make healthy eating affordable for busy professionals?
So again, I think it comes down to the planning, and again, if you have the right food in your house, you can cook the right food and you don't have to order off of an app, because let's face it, that's way more expensive. So I usually tell people, I'm not a fan of like the meal prepping, as I said earlier, but you can use like a component of whatever you've had the previous night as a component for the meal tomorrow. For instance, if you are doing a typical bodybuilding meal the previous night, so broccoli, brown rice, chicken, standard, nee? Tomorrow the chicken maybe is left over and the rice is finished and the broccoli is finished. You can still use that chicken the next afternoon for a lunch. So you can do a chicken salad, you can do a chicken wrap, you can do a chicken couscous salad, for instance. So have one of the components and plan around that, so that you have the chicken is sorted. I just have to plan something with it. It will also decrease the temptation of ordering something or getting something from the shop, because you have something left over. But you have to have a plan with that chicken. It's not going to make itself into a salad. So yeah, or if the rice is left over, previous night you had it, as I said, and then the next day you can do like a cold rice salad, for instance. It's completely different, but at least one of the components are cooked already.
We tend to cook slightly larger for dinner in the evenings, and then literally the first thing we do is we dish out lunch for the next day, and then whatever is left, then obviously
so you only have
dinner.
to focus on having a healthy meal once, but you actually benefit twice.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. How can people manage cravings and unhealthy snacking during a busy day? I love chocolate and I always want a chocolate.
Exactly. So I think it's important to realize what's the trigger. Why do you want the chocolate? Are you hungry? Did you have a fight with your boss? Is it because you're tired? You maybe didn't have a balanced lunch? Is it maybe because you're dehydrated? You didn't have your water? So I think it's important to figure out what the trigger is. And as a dietitian, I would never say no, you're not allowed to have chocolate. We all eat chocolate. But figure out why. Is it happening every day at 3 o'clock? Because then it's a diet reason for you not to have a craving. Is it only on a Monday? It's probably because you eat badly over the weekend. So figure out why and when it is. Is it like a trend? Then we can figure out what the reason is. But again, don't have it with you. If you have a chocolate there in your drawer, it's gonna say, "Jock, eat me." If it's not there, you won't think about it. Okay. And I know we can order, and I know we can go to the shops, but probably if it's in your bag, you're gonna have it. So I think don't bring it with. That's the number one thing. And then again, back to the protein. Usually we get especially for sugary foods, we get the cravings when our blood sugar spikes and drops. But if we add a protein to our meals, it sort of helps with the GI of the food. So even a higher GI meal with a good amount of protein, it will decrease the GI, and the cravings later in the day will be less. So I think eat frequently and then planning again. So bring a little bakkie with biltong with you instead of the chocolate, and then have that before having the chocolate. Also, you can put something in place that I like to call guardrails. Okay, so I'm not saying no, but I'm saying have a glass of water and put your phone away, walk once around the block. If you still want that chocolate, have it. Chances are you were just dehydrated and you just needed a break.
Possible. So dopamine or something
like
that. Okay, so how do you help clients navigate food intolerances, allergies, or special diets?
So obviously it's not a one size fits all. So at our practice, we don't do a set meal plan for everyone. So patient will never walk in and walk out with the meal plan on the same day. It takes 2 or 3 days because we take all of that into consideration. So your first question, the food intolerances, we check why there's an intolerance, because I don't like just cutting out food and then cutting out nutrients without being it legit. So if it's just a preference, they don't like Brussels sprouts, for instance, we try and see if we can get other food with the same nutrients in the diet to help that. If it's a true allergy, then obviously we cut it out completely. If we then have to put a supplement in to help with those nutrients, we do. But most of the times we can get to it with just food on its own. And then the special diets, obviously there's a whole array of diets. We get the diabetic diet, we get hypertension, we get all of that. But ultimately you have to eat healthy, and you have to eat frequently, and you have to eat the different food groups. So we help our clients with what to eat when and the amounts. So, and I think that's actually one of your questions earlier. I didn't answer the whole question about the portion control. That tends to be a problem if we skip a meal. And then you're so hungry that you overeat at your next meal. I think that was 2 questions back. Yeah. And that's the same with the special diets. And for a diabetic, for instance, a diabetic can never skip a meal. It's very important for them. So we put a different emphasis on different things for people on different special diets. We might have a patient that needs to eat a soft diet. It's an elderly lady, maybe her dentures are not fitting so nicely anymore. So you can't get away with that. That's what it is. It needs to be a soft diet. I need to help her to make it a soft diet. So we do stuff like that as well. But I think it's important to just first figure out, why do they do what they do? Do they do it because they watched the documentary on Netflix? Or is it a religious reason? Is it like a legit mechanical physiology reason? So that we try to get, like in Afrikaans, die kap agter die byl, nee? Yeah. And then we take it from there.
So one thing that I sorry. So one thing that I hear coming out now is diet is not only weight loss.
Yes, no, it's not.
So there's I mean, you've mentioned cancer patients, you've mentioned diabetics. I would expect weight loss is just one small portion, because that's generally when people think diet, I need to lose weight.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's something that all over the world dietitians are struggling with, is that people only associate us with being a food police, which is not the truth. So, I mean, if you think, especially in South Africa, if you think about it, we do everything with food, from being born and at your christening, all the way through to your funeral, we eat. Okay, so why is it such a problem? Why is it like, okay, but I can't eat this, I can't do that? Just implement it in a healthier way so that you can still go to all of these functions. But also, if you are getting older and you're struggling to eat, come see a dietitian that we can help you, because we also helped you when you were a teenager and you didn't know how to cook. It forms part of all different parts of life. And then just to answer your question about the social events, I think what I like to do is I like to Google the restaurant where I'm going, because I want to see how it looks. But most of the time you can also see the menu. Okay. So I think, look at the menu, make your decision before you go and stick to it. Because now you're going to hear this, the one next to you is going to order the pizza and this one is going to do that and whatever, and you're going to get distracted. But stick with what you decided that you're going to eat, because you obviously made it in a calm environment without all the food noise around you. So do that. And then also, don't skip your lunch, because tonight you're going to have a big meal at a social event. Like, that is just setting yourself up for disaster. Still have your normal, healthy, balanced lunch, and then do the same for dinner. Have a balanced meal when you go out, and not an all-in or all-out approach.
One thing that I've noticed, and I was surprised when I found out exactly how much calories there are in the sauces and bastings used by restaurants, and especially your takeaway places with their ketchup and
it's all about their ratings. So they want their food to taste nice, because they want you to tell someone, you have to go try that burger. But we know that all of that tastes nice is unfortunately also the stuff with the calories.
Usually. Yes. All right. So what are the long-term benefits of good nutrition for overall health and disease prevention?
So we have something that's called the visceral fat. So that's the fat in the waist area around your waist. So I always tell my patients, because I have a scale at the office that can measure this fat. And I always tell them, we like skinny and slim arms, and we like nice legs. It looks nice. But from a health point of view, the fat in this area that we usually hide with our clothes, I mean, just wearing a bigger t-shirt or something, you can hide that. But from a health point of view, that is the most important part of the fat, because your lungs and your kidneys and your liver is not in your arm, it's here. And if you have a lot of fat in this area, it will go sit around those organs, and it can cause problems. For instance, diabetes, hypertension, fatty liver disease, all of those things. So and that's usually the lifestyle diseases. It usually starts when we tend to get a little older, not old, but older. And that is where it sort of catch up with you. Like you can get away with bad habits up to a certain point, and then it starts catching up.
So that would be the first risk indicator for you to address.
Yes, definitely. And usually it's also on the report I do for patients, it's right at the bottom. And I usually scroll down to see that. And the patients go, what's my weight? And I'm like, I don't care what your weight is. I want to see the visceral fat. Because that's the important part from like a health point of view.
Okay. All right. So, how can nutrition support mental health and stress management? Business owners, we have a lot of stress.
Yes, we do. And unfortunately, most of the times we are also emotional eaters because we are all emotional beings.
Why I feel called out here.
Sorry, John. It's true. And again, like I said earlier, just figure out why do you want to eat whatever you want to eat. Is it because you're stressed? Is it because you're hungry? Is it because you need a break? Is it because you had a fight with your mother-in-law? Whatever the case is, figure out your trigger. But then I think if we eat healthy fats, so usually the fats that comes from plants, they can also help us regulate our mood and how your brain function and all of that. So focusing on that, making sure you have your sardines and your tuna and fish like during the week. Snack on some nuts, although nuts are very high in calories, but they're also very good in fat. So right portions, for instance, that's important. But yeah, it can definitely help you to manage your stress. And again, any protein that you eat has also got an effect on your hormonal balance. So if you tend to eat the right protein in the right amount, it can also help with the hormonal balance in your body.
Which helps with the mental wellness.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What strategies help clients stick to healthy habits consistently?
Yeah, so it depends on whether it's a female or a male patient. I've got different strategies for different genders. But female, really, if they do well if they journal a little bit. So doesn't have to be telling their whole daily story in the journal. But just maybe make a note on your phone. This is what I had for breakfast. It was someone's birthday, so I had a cupcake, whatever. Because we tend to forget, and then maybe this afternoon you think, oh, I want a chocolate, I haven't had anything bad today. But then you go, oh yeah, I forgot about the cupcake. Yeah, so it just helps. And to get to those trends that we spoke about earlier, or the triggers, to see, but every Wednesday I feel like this. Why? Is it because I have a meeting with my boss every Wednesday? Or like, why? Just figure it out so that you can plan for that. And yeah, so that really helps is the journaling. And also to set alarms on your phone. So if you want to do like a breakfast, lunch, snack, lunch, dinner, that works quite well. Set alarms on your Garmin, on your phone, whatever the case is, to remind you to eat because we all are busy. So that helps. For men, they tend to overeat on the portions. So for them, it really helps. Even if you work from home or it's a weekend at home or whatever, pack your lunch out in a lunchbox as if you're going to work. Okay, it sounds very weird, but do it. So if you are at home and you're chilling, watching a movie or rugby or whatever, my portion for today was 4 rice cakes, peanut butter, and 30 grams of biltong. That's my snack. Don't open a full packet of chips and finish it because you're going to just eat like mindlessly. Okay. The other big tip that really helps for men and ladies and kids, I see it so often with the kids, the high school kids, is to not eat with social media. The only time when you're allowed to have your phone when you're eating is when you take a photo of your food. All right, because we tend to eat and scroll and we don't realize it and the packet of chips is finished, or we finished the whole Coke and we didn't even realize it and you still feel thirsty. Or you buy a pizza and you eat it while watching a story on Netflix. Tomorrow you want a pizza again because you never actually realized that you ate it. So eat with all your senses. Look at the food, smell the food, feel the food, taste the food, be in the moment. Enjoy. I want to say too many things together now, but in South Africa we have the food-based dietary guidelines. The first one says enjoy a variety of food with a lot of emphasis on the word enjoy. Okay, you have to have a good relationship with your food and you have to have a good relationship with the people that you eat with. So enjoy the food with your friends and family, not lying on the couch watching Netflix, eating a pizza and not even realize that you eat it. Yeah.
Okay. That's quite an interesting take on it. So here's an important one. How important is hydration?
Yeah.
And what are the signs of dehydration people often miss?
Yeah. So we tend to do coffee because we're in office, we have people bringing coffee for us, we have constant meetings where we order a coffee, and in fact, coffee is actually dehydrating because it is there's caffeine in. So yes, it's made with water, but there's caffeine in, so it doesn't really count. So I think it's important to have a nice water bottle or something that you carry with you. Don't try and think I'm going to tonight make up and drink a 2 liter before I go to bed. That's stupid. Rather pace it out throughout the day. So maybe if it works for you, Every time that I walk past the water cooler, I'm going to have a small glass of water. If there's no water cooler, maybe make a rule. Every time I eat my snack or my lunch, I'm going to have 1 or 2 glasses of water. Every time my phone rings, I'm going to take a sip of water. Whatever, you know almost what happens in your life. So something like that to help you to consume enough water. Obviously, we want just plain water, that's what's important, but there is ways to make it more interesting. So you can add some fruit pieces to it to make it taste a bit like spa water, you know. Or you get those food drops, water drops that you can get from the Dis-Chem or something that you can also put in the water. You get them in a wide variety of flavors. You can have some in your handbags, some in the car, in the office, and it's like a few drops and it just change the taste of the water slightly. We can also do herbal teas. That works quite well in winter, so that helps to get to your hydration. And then signs of dehydration is usually when you do go to the bathroom and your urine is very dark in color, then that's a sign. It could also be that you go for the whole day without having to go to the toilet. That's also another sign. Very tired, headache, blurry vision, all of that can be signs of being dehydrated.
And that's a bad thing, obviously.
Yes.
So if you could give every busy professional one nutrition tip, what would it be?
Can I say plan again?
Yes. So it's like very similar to the other question we had earlier. But planning, yeah.
Yeah, plan I think is very important. Plan, and one of my favorite sentences to say is one unhealthy meal doesn't make you unhealthy, and one healthy meal doesn't make you healthy. So if you slip up once during the day, the next meal is another opportunity to have a good healthy meal and fuel your body. So don't be like, I'll wait for Monday, I'll wait for the 1st of Jan, I will wait for this. No, the next meal is the opportunity.
Okay. So what are the easiest ways to improve immune system function through diet?
So
and is it possible?
Yeah, this is a question we used to get a lot in COVID.
Okay.
I mean, we were quite thrown under the bus with it. So there's no way you can improve your immune system with eating. There is a way that you can like help it and strengthen it. Okay, so because your immune function is your immune function, so we can't say, well, I get sick every day, it's maybe because I'm not eating oranges, for instance, né? But supporting your immune function, that is what we can do. So we have to eat like all the colors of the rainbow. So, and it's not Smarties and Astros, né? You see, I know you. So it's like, if you think of a cucumber and you think of tomato, it's two different colors. They have different micronutrients, okay? And the micronutrients is almost like a spark plug in your car, né? Okay, everything is there, everything is working, everything you need for your immune function to work is there, but it's not working. Why not? Because the spark plug is not there, né? So we need selenium, we need magnesium, we need zinc, we need all of that just to set it in motion, okay? So there's no like, eat 3 oranges every day and you won't get sick. There's no thing like that. But eat a variety of food, eat lots of fiber, because if your gut is happy and healthy, then your immune function will also improve. But there's no way of like saying, okay, I have a bad immune function, I'm going to just eat this. We can only strengthen it and we can only support it. Yeah.
Okay. So what small changes over time has the biggest impact on health and wellness?
Yeah, so I think hydration, like we mentioned earlier, because that also helps with your cravings. So you tend to eat less of the bad stuff, or not the bad stuff, the less healthy stuff. Okay. Then eating early in the morning a healthy breakfast. I always say like 200 years ago, we used to say breakfast is the most important meal, and it's still true. It really is. But what do we put in that breakfast is what is important. 200 years ago, we all walked to our jobs and the kids walked to school. It was fine. Now we're taking the bus or we're taking the car or we work from home. We don't travel anymore. We don't walk. We don't even have to go far to the bathroom. So you can't focus on having Cocoa Pops for breakfast. It was maybe okay then, it's not okay now. So I think, start with a protein-rich breakfast. Eat lots of different colors. It's the other thing I think is a small change. And then where you can try and have like lower fat alternative dairy products. Again, a lot of people believe that the low fat milk has got more sugar in. It's not like that. Please go read the labels. It's not like that. So we can save a lot of calories on doing like a lower fat dairy thing. And then the other big thing that especially busy professionals can look at is rethink your drink. Nee? Okay, so if you drink 4 or 5 cappuccinos a day, that's a lot of calories. Nee? And then you put 1 spoon of sugar in. Tonight you go home, it was such a hectic day, I can't sleep because I'm tired, but actually you had 5 cups of coffee. Then you have a glass of wine to be able to sleep. And then you don't even worry about the diet anymore, so you just eat whatever for dinner. So rethinking your drink is very important. Don't do sugary drinks. Don't do the monsters, the plays, all of that, because it's very high in sugar. And you forget, like I said earlier about the cupcake when you journal your food, you forget. If you don't write down, I had a monster this morning, you forgot that, or you forget that you did. And that's almost equivalent to like 3 slices of bread.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you, Chanel. This was very informative, and I hope it was informative for our viewers. If you like the content, please click on the like button. For more interviews like this with other professionals in other fields, feel free to subscribe. There are more coming. And that's it from me. My name is Jacques. This is from the JJT channel, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks.